Let's talk about Kyrie Irving and why I believe the media owes him an apology. This guy this year, if you haven't paid attention, 49% from the field, almost 50%, 90% from the free throw line, and 41% from three. Almost had a 50-40-90 year again. He did this for Brooklyn. He's got the Mavs in the fifth seed. I know they lost the Clippers yesterday. In my opinion, the Clippers came out, they did their thing. They attacked the mismatch with Zubac, and they just were phenomenal. James Harden with the step back threes. He was playing some really good ball. But I think Dallas didn't move the ball well enough, and that needs to change. 14 assists in game one. That's not going to get it done. Kyrie, 31 points, 10 of 18. I'm not going to, criticize him. Or Luka, I think he had 34. So they did their job, but the other role players have to show up as well. Now, with that being said, let's look at Kyrie as a player. Obviously, he played with the Cavs, got the championship in that game 7, made this shot to win them that game, essentially. Made that shot over Steph Curry, by the way. And then he wants to go to Boston to be the man. Now, I will admit, as a Celtics fan, I was upset with the way he left Boston. Not going to lie. But looking back at that team and just looking at the roster, it just wasn't a good fit because there's a lot of hands that needed the basketball. Jason Tatum needed the ball. Jaylen Brown, Terry Rozier, and these guys went to the Eastern Conference Finals and pushed Cleveland to Game 7 when Kyrie was out. It makes you wonder, those guys had egos, in my opinion. They weren't going to mesh really well. That team was expected to go to the finals, but they couldn't put it all together because too many guys wanted to be the main star. I can't blame Kyrie for wanting to leave that situation because he wanted to be that guy. And then he plays with Kevin Durant. He was great during their playoff run before that injury that happened against Milwaukee in Game 3, unfortunately. Comes back, and in the vaccine situation, people just crucified him for making his own personal decision. And then what happens? He requests a trade last year. He goes to Dallas. First year, you could say, okay, they didn't make the playoffs. But the Mavs tanked on purpose, and they got Derek Lively out of that situation. I think they will beat the Clippers in 6. They need to beat the Clippers because I don't see a situation where Kawhi Leonard is going to be healthy enough, and I don't trust James Harden or Paul George to be this consistent. I just don't. No disrespect to them, but we've seen James Harden in the playoffs, so we'll see if it continues. If it does, credit to the Clippers, but I still think Dallas wins in 6. Now, I do want to play the video with Uncut Hoops where he gave his take on Kyrie. We'll be reacting to the video. I thought it was a great video. Now, this video came out about 12 days ago, but I just love what he had to say. So shout out to Uncut Hoops. Let's go ahead and jump right into this.
Do you think that Kyrie is worth all of this drama?
No, he's not. He's not worth it at all. A matter of fact, let me say this straight up and down. I think Kyrie Irving should retire.
How does Kyrie look now?
He looked like a fool. He looked crazy. Who? Kyrie Irving. Okay.
We are witnessing one of the most delusional athletes in American history.
He is a bona fide hater. He is so jealous.
Yo, you see the hate Kyrie got saying he needs to retire, that he's a hater. Stephen A. Smith and Kendrick Perkins are eating their words right now because Kyrie, again, is doing his thing. He hasn't said anything to the media, had his injuries, but wasn't a distraction, and just played basketball. I think the criticism of Kyrie is just a bit much. He's a champion. He's clutch. Great isolation player. I want him on my team in the fourth quarter because this guy knows how to get the job done. It's not like he played bad yesterday either. Again, 10 of 18, 31 points. It's not bad at all. It was just a bad game for Dallas overall because they didn't move the ball enough. But you already see from the media, like they just crucified this guy. And in my opinion, that's just a bit much. Let's just keep it about basketball. If he has his opinions, he's got his opinions.
And he envied LeBron James that he can't even hide it no more.
If there was an NBA award for the biggest comeback of the year, proving fans wrong, NBA executives wrong, and especially the NBA media, Kyrie Irving will be the runaway winner of said award. And with hindsight being 2020, looking at that Dallas-Brooklyn trade, what Dallas traded for Kyrie Irving, it's actually comical. As the big-time haul Brooklyn got was Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie, a first-round pick, and 2 second-round picks. Dallas getting Kyrie Irving, the trade grade for them was a D from ESPN. At that point in 2023, Kyrie's overall value, the perception of him as a player, even a person, was at its absolute lowest. And Kyrie really, since that point, has done everything right. As this year in Dallas, 25.8 points on 49.6% shooting, 41% from deep, and 90.7% from the free throw line. Kyrie is mere percentage points away from his second 50-40-90 season.
The numbers don't lie. That boy has been cooking this year. And I imagine if he was healthy, would he have been in the All-Star game? Because he wasn't. He wasn't even a reserve. But a guy like Damian Lillard was starting for the Bucks. And I know Milwaukee won last night and Dame did cook, but he's always been a great first-round performer. But later in the playoffs, I don't know about Dame. And to me, it seems like he has gone backwards this year. And in the fourth quarter, if you look at the numbers, Kyrie is better in the fourth quarter than Damian Lillard. Those are just the facts. Give me Kyrie over Dame every day, all day, every day. You don't like it, I don't care. I just think he's a better scorer. I think he can shoot three. He can get the mid range. He can get to the basket, draw fouls. He's good in the post game with his footwork. Kyrie just does it all. And this year he's just been great, but you don't hear a lot of conversations from the media. They're very quiet on Kyrie right now. So again, I just think he deserves his credit with how he's been performing.
Only one other player, that being Larry Bird, has had 2 years of 25 plus points on those shooting splits. It's actually pretty remarkable Kyrie Irving, despite the drama, the chaos, the media whirlwind, his overall play is always consistent. And even more shocking than that, Kyrie this year wasn't an all-star starter, an all-star, or a reserve. Yet someone like Dame Lillard in the Eastern Conference, who's regressed, was an all-star starter. And for a quick side-by-side comparison, look at Dallas trade for Kyrie versus the Bucks for Dame Lillard. Which team got absolutely fleeced?
I'm not going to lie. When Kyrie first went to the Mavs, I thought it was a bad trade. I will admit that. And I was completely wrong on that take. But looking at this trade now between the Mavs and the Bucks, it's not looking good for Milwaukee. It's just not, because they don't have good perimeter defense. They have wing problems, in my opinion. And they're an old roster. Looking at Dallas, they're set up nicely. They got Lively in the draft. And I think Dallas is only going to get better. They should get better because we haven't seen prime Luka yet. You've got a guy like Kyrie on there. It's a scary team. And when you look at the Bucks, their window is shorter when it comes to winning a championship. And then they got to end up dealing with Boston, possibly, assuming they get past the Knicks. I don't think they're getting past New York. But even if they do, I don't think it's not going past 5 or 6 games with Boston. Boston's just going to slaughter them because of the matchups. And again, Dame is supposed to be this guy, but he has regressed this season. So again, Dame was phenomenal last night, but is he going to do that later in the playoffs? That's a question that needs to be answered. We'll see. But right now, I'm still taking Kyrie because he's just been great. And I like him paired with Luka because, I know Luka likes to dominate the ball, but Kyrie also wants the ball as well. And he's not going to just put up with that because he's got a championship to show for it.
Of course, the Mavs trade Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, a couple of picks. The Bucks getting Dame gave up Drew Holiday, one of the vital pieces of their championship team in 2021, who for Boston, I would say has been one of their unsung heroes, a guy who's steady, consistent, and a great defender. Also Grayson Allen, who with Phoenix, the best shooter in the NBA. And of course, a few first-round picks. Kyrie going to Dallas for pennies on the dollar was one of the best steals of all time. And Dame going to the Bucks, blowing up that team, one of the worst moves in recent history. And looking at the Dame versus Giannis pairing, coming into the year, what were we told? This duo, the best duo in the NBA, their pick and roll is going to be deadly and explosive. And to be fair to them, they've had some moments of great play. But in terms of a cohesive duo, gelling together being a perfect fit, they're far from it. Now, compare that to Kyrie and Luka, who offensively were a top 3 duo at worst.
Now, as a Bucks fan out there, you got Doc Rivers as your coach. If you're up 3-1 in the series, you better hope they close that series because we know Doc has a tendency to just blow leads. And, going back to top 3 duo, Luka and Kyrie, absolutely. Dame and Giannis, I don't think they've been bad. They need to run more pick and roll action with them. I don't think they're going to win it this year, but next year, Milwaukee needs to win the championship because their window is so much shorter. And I think re-signing Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton was a big mistake, especially when you need to get younger around their wing positions. That's where I think is their biggest weakness right now. And you signed 2 old heads. I just don't think that was a good idea. Now it seems like Milwaukee's stuck here because if they get bounced early in the playoffs, are they going to stick together? Are they going to keep this roster going? Or are they going to just blow it up? Because, again, if it doesn't end well, I'm telling you, it's not going to be pretty in Milwaukee. Kyrie and Luka, they've got something going on. They're going to keep building chemistry. I think Dallas is headed in the right direction here. And Kyrie, again, just building that with Luka in a year time span, That's impressive to me. And I like where, he's headed, and we'll see how the rest of these playoffs turn out for him.
Think about these guys as big time fourth quarter players, ISO players. Down the stretch, both of them can create their own shot or create a shot for a teammate. As looking at Luka, he ranks first in ISO scoring at 8.1 points per game, and Kyrie himself ranks sixth at just under 5 points per game. Out of the entire NBA, only Dallas and the Clippers have 2 players top 10 in ISO scoring. And building off that, when it comes to great NBA teams, great contenders, what's one thing they all have in common? Late in the fourth quarter, in the big time moments, all the great teams, great players, great duos can generate quality looks for their teammates and themselves. Look at last year's West Finals. Jokic and Jamal Murray, why they won that series was their crunch time play and the shots they created. The East Finals, why Boston lost, because Tatum and Brown struggled creating their own shots and shots for teammates. And most times in the fourth quarter became very, very stagnant. In regards to late game play not being stagnant, getting good looks, Dallas offensively, one of the best teams in the league. Defensively, improved, not great.
I'm not going to lie, that Jokic Murray versus Tatum and Brown comparison, it hurts, but it's true. This is why I don't trust my team, the Celtics, because when it comes to showing up in the fourth quarter, when the game is close, they haven't proven that yet to me, in my opinion. They haven't done enough. You look at last year against the Heat, when they won 2 out of the 3 games, they blew out Miami. But in game 6, it took a tip-in from Derek White at the end to win that game. But where was Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum in the last 5 minutes? Nowhere to be found. I couldn't find them. But Jimmy Butler was doing his thing. Miami was making their run, and they held on for dear life. But Jokic and Murray, when it came to fourth quarter situations in the clutch against the Lakers, they were doing everything they were supposed to do. Playoff Murray is a real thing. Jokic in the playoffs and showing up is a real thing. Brown and Tatum, that's still to be decided. They got to figure things out when the games are within 10 points or closer than that, and they're only up by 1 possession. They have to execute during those moments. It's going to be very critical for Boston because, again, it's hard to admit that, but it's just the truth. I love Tatum, but I think Tatum needs to drive to the hole more. I think him relying on the step backs and the 3-point shots just aren't good quality looks, especially when you just need to get to the mid-range to shoot over somebody to win the game or take a 4-point lead. That's where that needs to change.
Top tier. And looking at since mid-February with Kyrie Irving, their record is 23-6. And the post-All-Star break Mavs post-trade. Them in the fourth quarter, the best team in the league. Scoring-wise, 29.1 points, second only to the Spurs, which really first among legit teams. Field goal percentage, 50.3%, second only to Denver. Offensive rating, fourth. Fifth, total made threes, seventh in percentage, the second fewest turnovers, and third highest plus minus behind Denver and Minnesota.
Those fourth quarter numbers are really going to help Dallas. Second in turnovers, so critical, especially in the playoffs, because possessions are going to matter even more. And then essentially they're first in scoring in the fourth quarter when we look at the contenders, plus minus right behind the Nuggets and Timberwolves. And shout out to the Timberwolves. I know they've had their struggles offensively, but to still be that good in the fourth quarter, it's going to bode well for them as well. Again, Dallas is just getting the job done. To me, this is a team that's only going to get better. I know they had a lot of injury issues this year, so if they can get healthy, or I should say stay healthy next year, shouldn't they be a top 4 team in the Western Conference? One can say yes. I definitely say yes. But again, what they've done to turn things around and to build good habits, it's only going to result in good things for them. As long as they stay focused, and I know game 1 was tough, but I expect them to respond. I really do. Defensively, I don't think they were terrible. I thought they were pretty solid. They gave up 22 points in the second quarter. They scored 8 points. Offense just has to be more, fluid. There needs to be more ball movement. And, Kyrie and Luka just have to make sure they keep showing up. Again, we'll see how they respond.
When it comes to the 2024 Dallas Mavericks, I believe this team, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is built for the postseason. And looking at the Western Conference landscape, what's one of the big-time major themes? Youth versus experience. A team like Oklahoma City, record-wise, metrics-wise, destroys Dallas, blows them out of the water. But looking at their starting lineup,
That's a good call out because experience is going to matter in these playoffs. We saw OKC, even though they did beat the Pelicans last night, that was a dogfight. And that was without Zion Williamson. OKC did struggle in that game because they're inexperienced. They'd never been here. They had never had a target on their back. SGA did do his thing. He did clutch up and score, in that last minute and a half, but they went 5 minutes without scoring. So there's a blueprint for OKC out there. So I don't know how they're going to survive that going forward. Do I expect them to beat the Pelicans? Of course. But as you go deeper in the playoffs, teams are going to be focusing on strategizing, scheming. So when I look at the experience factor, it's important. Kyrie's been to the finals. Luka's been to the Western Conference Finals. It's no, shot at OKC. It's just the reality. And then even if OKC gets past Dallas, do I think they're beating Denver? No, not with that front court. Jokic will slaughter them. I know they won the season series, but this is the playoffs. It's different when you have a whole series to scheme for somebody. So again, when you go 5 minutes without scoring in the fourth quarter, that's a concern. I still think OKC is a phenomenal team, and they will get better from this playoff run. But experience is going to trump youth eventually during this playoff run.
Who's their big-time veteran presence? Is it SGA, who himself is only 25? I mean, this Oklahoma City team is the third youngest team in the league, and their veteran leader hasn't played a playoff series since 2020. Even looking at Minnesota, of course, Ant Edwards is dynamic. But Edwards in the playoffs, he'll have games where he's MJ 2.0 and other games where he's Harold Miner Jr. Looking at the Pelicans, one of these sleeper teams in the West, Zion Williamson hasn't played a playoff game to date, and Brandon Ingram did one playoff series in 8 seasons.
Man, it's tough on Zion because he was phenomenal in his first playoff game against the Lakers. He was great in that game. And, in my opinion, I think the Pelicans would have won against the Lakers because he was just building so much momentum, had 40. I mean, the guy was amazing. And, you look at Brandon Ingram, he's been there once, and I get that argument too. And then you have Anthony Edwards, who has been in the playoffs. He was there last year, so he's going to build off that. And of course, SGA was phenomenal last night. This guy in the fourth quarter down the stretch was unbelievable. Again, I think experience eventually is going to become a factor during the playoffs. It just has to because it always does. But that's no shot at, Anthony Edwards or SGA. They're only going to get better, in my opinion. And same for Zion. I hope Zion continues to build off this season, regardless of what happens to the Pelicans during this playoff run against OKC. If they push it to 6 games or if they get past them, I don't think they will. But I think they're going to build off the season, and Zion is going to come back even better next year.
Younger teams in the Western Conference, I'd give Dallas the edge over all of them. And why that is Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Now, looking at the old guys, of course, in the planned tournament, LA, Golden State, yeah. We know about those guys. But the old teams securely in the playoffs, the LA Clippers. I mean, look at this team as of late, abysmal basketball. And when it comes to James Harden, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, trusting all 3 of those guys, when it comes to playoffs, I don't.
And this is why I'm not going to overreact to game 1 because James Harden can have these games, but other games he's just nowhere to be found. And is Kawhi going to be healthy? He can come back, but will he be the Kawhi Leonard that we know in the playoffs? I don't know. We don't know if he's coming. I know I heard a report he will be back for game 2, but we'll see if he's back and if he's going to be effective. And obviously Dallas will make the adjustments and they'll come out strong, and they need to come out with desperation because in that opening quarter, they just were playing like it was a regular season game. I didn't see the intensity that I'm used to seeing from them. And, they were just feeling things out, and eventually it was too big of a hole. Now, their defense wasn't terrible. You come in the fourth quarter, I think they outscored the Clippers 33-22. They can build off that. And Kyrie and Luka weren't terrible. They just got to get better. There was a sequence in the second quarter where they had a fast break opportunity, and Kyrie shoots a corner 3, and Luka shoots a corner 3 after they get the rebound. I'm thinking to myself, just get an easy bucket. There's no need for that shot right now. They'll learn, they'll bounce back, and that's why I'm not going to be concerned about a game 1 win or loss for Dallas because I think they're the better team.
Durant, Booker, then Beal, and that's really it. The Phoenix Suns roster, highly inconsistent, one of the worst contracts in the NBA in Bradley Beal, and extremely top-heavy. When it comes to all these teams, the scariest one is Minnesota. But besides that, in a matchup versus Dallas, none of them really scare me as a big-time threat to the Mavericks. And I'm going to call my shot right now. Depending on how the seeding goes, if Dallas is a 5th seed or a 6th seed, depending on where Denver falls, I think this team realistically is destined for the Western Conference Finals. Now, looking back at the NBA media, when it comes to Stephen A. Smith, a Kendrick Perkins, a Nick Friedel, even a Brian Windhorst, all these guys in the past couple of years have just taken a crap on Kyrie Irving. Not just talking about his on the court play, but off the court as a person, his mental state, and his ability as a leader. And you got to ask yourself, why is the media so hard on Kyrie? Well, I mean, it's actually kind of simple. Look at the teams Kyrie's played for, the big time fan bases, and player fan bases. Of course, Celtics fans despise Kyrie. LeBron fans don't really give him credit. KD fans, Net fans, really indifferent. Kyrie, in a very short time period, has quote unquote offended a lot of people.
And as you saw there, that quote by Kendrick Perkins was just a bit much. Stick to basketball. Don't offend this guy's character. Don't come that hard at him, because at the end of the day, he is a phenomenal basketball player. What he does off the court is his business, and we should keep it there. If you want to talk about that, have your own show. Don't put it with sports. Talking about his brain and saying it could fly backwards. Really, bro? That's a bit much. My guy, you're not even on the same level as Kyrie Irving. Let's just start there. So, yeah, I think Stephen A. and Kendrick, they went way too far with Kyrie. Not too much on him, man. He's doing his thing. He's staying quiet. I don't think it'd be a good look if they lose in the first round against the Clippers, but I like where Dallas is heading as a team. If they come back next year as a top 4 in the Western Conference and Kyrie is leading the charge with Luka and they get to the finals, oof, it's going to be some nasty conversations going on with Kyrie. The redemption arc right now with Kyrie is looking really good in Dallas. And if they get past the Clippers, they get to the Western Conference Finals this year, that is going to be a lot of fun. And I'm curious to see how Stephen A. and Kendrick respond to that. Because are they going to give him enough credit? Are they going to apologize? They probably won't, because they're like, oh, I was right at the time. And really, you weren't, because that was his own personal stuff going on. Just because he didn't want to take a vaccine doesn't mean he's a bad guy. Just because he reposted a video and he didn't say anything in it, he just reposted it, doesn't mean you need to slander him. You didn't slander Amazon. You didn't say that at all. You didn't say they should have taken that movie down. You just went after Kyrie because he has his own thoughts and he likes to express himself. Separating basketball from his personal life, that's what needs to happen. And the media doesn't do that enough. It's ridiculous. And Kyrie is just balling out. So he needs to keep playing well, doing his thing, helping the Mavs out, build good habits. And we'll see where Dallas ends up. I think they won that trade. It's clear as day they won that trade. When I look at the Bucks and Dame, they got fleeced. And I don't think it's going to end very well for them. And we'll see how they respond in the offseason. If I look at the Dallas Mavericks right now and where they're headed, I think they're in good hands with Luka and Kyrie. And Mavs fans, you should be excited because this team is only going to get better. I know the Clippers are a tough matchup. They, haven't gotten over the hump yet. We'll see if they do. I think they will. I still got Mavs in 6. That's just how I feel about it. And I think they will make the Western Conference Finals because I just like the makeup of this team and I like the experience. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. Love to hear your thoughts on how the media has handled Kyrie Irving. Do you think they've gone too far? Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.